Alright, so welcome back for another one. Last time we got the transmission thrown in there, and then I got sick, and then I showed you some stuff that I got for the engine, and we are going to try messing around with them and seeing how they fit in here and see if it messes up how we plan on mounting this thing. So, yeah, let's just get rolling here. Alright, so we got our mess in progress here. So we got our starter, alternator, water pump, power steering pump. So first stop is probably going to be the starter. It's always a good thing to put a lot of these accessories on before you bolt down where the engine's going to be, because I've seen some mess ups, like the Raider. I actually built the exhaust and everything, got that out routed, and then realized I didn't put the starter in yet. So that was a big mess. So I'm guessing let's just do a starter, and then the water pump we'll mess around with, because those are two pieces that have to be where they need to be. They've got a spot and they just have to be there. And then we'll try to figure out where we can put the starter and power steering pump to not interfere with the rest of the stuff that we're doing. So let's just get that starter bolted in. Alright, so you can see the spot we have to weasel this thing into. There we go. And that's about where it mounts. Guess we'll grab a couple bolts and see what we end up with. There's one little, there's a couple clips down in here that look like they need to be plugged in before we cement everything in, but I just want to get this so we can get all these dimensions rigged up. Alright, so that's completely in there. You can tell it's got a little bit of run-in with this heat shield. I'm thinking I'm probably going to remove this heat shield. That's how we're doing the exhaust. It's not going to matter. So yeah. All right. Then our next stop is, let's get a water pump mounted up here. Alright, now to refresh everybody's memory on what the old one looked like. Here's what the old one is. Here's the new one. Might end up having to run the exhaust high on this side. So the exhaust, so either have to have it come out above or below. If we do below, then we have to cross over the other exhaust to get the turbo up in here. So the turbo's probably going to be approximately this size. This is going to be interesting. Like our power steering pump, we can quite literally shove this guy wherever we want. Yeah, this is a chunky guy. Well, we could potentially low mount this pig. Like that. Alright, so monkeying around with it a while here. I think this might be the routing that we need to go. We'll have a pulley there, probably the tensioner. I believe that's where this mount is. Tensioner that goes under there. Loop it around there. Have a little backwards idler pulley there. And it should give us enough wrap up around on all the pulleys. It is going to make things a little accessory heavy on this side, so we'll still have to figure out how to pass an exhaust pipe around, but we should have enough room to maybe just come straight out here and then elbow. Should work with enough heat shielding and everything. We shouldn't melt anything around here because it should, well, with this out of the way, should be able to come straight through here. This will be out of the way. We won't have that. So it should just be able to come straight out here, turn, and as weird as it is, probably just pass in front of everything. Unless I want to come out here and instead of turning there, come out here, turn it straight down, and then go right above the link there. That might be a little bit better. If I can manage to get this thing moved over far enough, I mean, we should be able to even like come down here around. But anyways, that's the thought process at this moment. Now I'll have to pull some pieces of steel and so on and so forth and see if I can actually make this into a real bracket. Shouldn't be too difficult. Prototype it out, weld it up real good, and call it a day. Alright, so I've been pounding my head against the wall, trying to come up with a plan to get everything all bracketed in. And I think I've finally come up with what I'm going to do. So our first step is going to be coming through here and drilling and tapping that portion of the block. On the truck blocks, those aren't drilled and tapped, but on most of the car blocks, they will be. So all that we're gonna do is just change it up to a car style. And to do that, I'm just going to kind of cheat and just shove the alternator up in here. Alright. So, what we did is got a big drill bit, so that way it can make the small little dimple pilot hole before we switch to the good drill bit for the tap. So, alright, I made our dent in there. Well, I hope that's good enough. Alright, so I got a couple spacers run through on the lathe there. I pretty much came up with this big prototype bracket. And we're going to mount the power steering pump up onto it and kind of see how it spaces out and show you what I'm thinking of doing here. Got them part of the way in, so you can see the where it's mounted up here. So essentially what we're going to do is, while this looks like it might hold it, I'm worried that with it being mounted way back there, that as you put belt pressure on, it'll start tweaking things. So what I plan on doing is coming through with another bracket, and there's a third mounting hole on this pump right in here. And so if we get a bracket that comes around and bolts onto all three of these on this forward face, and then also comes down and hooks onto part of the the alternator as well. So if you get a bracket that comes from the two alternator bolts and then comes up and attaches in here as well, this will end up being a full solid piece, and it'll also allow us to have enough room to put the tensioner, which, let's see, that will probably just end up being like right here or something. Kind of almost right in there. That way it'll come up, wrap around, grab there, here, around the tensioner, and you're done. So yeah, that means we need to figure out the bracket and some spacers and go for there. I think what I'm going to start off with is making the spacers for these bolts. So we got the 3 bolts there, make some spacers the same depth as the power steering pump, and see where we're at there. Alright, so I got the other spacers made, and then I had to clearance this corner a little bit more because it was interfering with the edge of the water pump. But now we can shove everything back together. There we go, that slides through a lot easier. Still could probably use a little more off the edge. So that keeps that bracket from going anywhere. Alright, we're not exactly in the same plane between the alternator bracket and the pump. But let's just lightly throw the pump on here. Alright, there's that more or less. See what we got going on in here. If I get a piece of bracket, it comes here. I can grab that bolt, maybe these 2 bolts. All right, cardboard, the world's best template making material. Alright, so I'm going to kind of go with this concept here, but I will go through and make it longer. So I'm going to go mess around with that a little bit and see what I end up with. Kind of don't need to watch me swear out a piece of cardboard for an hour. So, be back shortly. Alright, so I think I got a pretty decent template. And this will come up on the front side of here. Kind of right up in there like that. It's able to come through and catch all of the bolts. So all of the nut holes, bolt holes, and everything it can catch, so it can catch all 3 of the bracket piece and the 3 pump section. So yeah, that's probably gonna work pretty decent. Now I guess I should probably pull this whole conglomeration back off so I can get the right hole spacing for here. So, guess I'm going to spin that off, make up the steel piece, and see how it actually fits on there. And then get the extra little bracket that's going to hook onto here and probably bolt into this bracket. So it'll be kind of a 2-piece bracket that holds everything together. I think that'll work. Alright, so I made up my other bracket. I went and got a little carried away over here, but that's not a big deal. That's just to help triangulate things. So let's just kind of assemble this thing. And nope. Okay. Yeah. There we go, a little something like that. And then this all kind of slams onto there. Hey, look at that. Isn't that something? Alright, so I reworked some of the bracket. Kind of smoothed this out to make it a little softer edge feel. And then I put a hole for the idler pulley. This way we can get a really good feel of how this belt is going to work. Now I'm still going to come down here and pick up these two bolts and bring them over to this mount point. Alright, so there's a template that I rigged up, and you can see it down there. Got it all mounted up. Everything's hard solid. Let's throw our belt back on, just check alignment. Oh, I think that's set up pretty good. So we got our bracket attached up there. And it comes up, and this pulley here goes through this bracket and threads into that bracket. So that way everything is triangulated there. There's a, might want to shave a little more off of this edge here just because of expansion and that type of stuff. I'll just grab the marker and mark that, so when I break everything down again to adjust that. And I might want to come in and smooth this in a little bit. But anyways, that's looking pretty good. Got all that straightened out there. Our hoses can probably, hopefully, I think it can even snake up behind here and up in there. But that should be good enough. We'll just have to make sure that our reservoir is higher than this point, which should be pretty easy. We'll probably just mount it up here in this corner. That way we're guaranteed it's higher than everything else. Alright, so I'm going to call this phase done. We got our accessories bolted up and they're pretty much ready to fly. So next time what we'll probably end up doing is making motor mounts and then figure out what we're doing from there. But next episode is going to be motor mounts, and we'll have to figure out how we're building them and messing them up in there. But that's enough thinking for today. Spent a lot of time trying to just figure out this whole bracket situation. and all in all came out a heck of a lot cheaper, and it's probably equally as strong and just as heavy as this big piece of junk that they used to put everything onto. This one was broken anyways, but that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to see more of this giant disaster come to fruition. And hopefully, if I don't go broke before then, we'll be able to rock and roll with this thing. But anyways, I guess I will see you guys later.